this election helped us answer a lot of questions we have about the future of the Death with Dignity movement, but it didn't answer all the questions. But the good thing is I'm not disheartened by what happened in the election or that some of the things are still up in the air, because I think the election results provided us with a great path forward, a solid direction for the Death with Dignity movement to aim. In terms of the heap of bills that don't get addressed, that go untalked about in Congress, kind of Death with Dignity really sits right on them. And not only Death with Dignity, but issues about dying, issues about nursing homes, payment for long-term care, how we make sure that folks who are very ill have good care at the end of their lives. All of those issues go untouched by Congress. And so that extreme partisanship is really blocking up our ability to do anything nationally on Death with Dignity. The good news is that we do have a pathway at the states, and we are focusing as a Death with Dignity movement on expanding Death with Dignity state by state and protecting it where it's legal. And I want to talk about some of the key states for 2023. First and foremost, the highlight, I think, of this election season for Death with Dignity happened in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where we now have a new governor, Maura Healey, who has come out as a supporter of Death with Dignity. We are moving forward today, and we now have a very supportive governor in the state of Massachusetts, and I am very excited about that. Looking forward to New York, what I see is somewhat of a different situation, but also a very important situation for the Death with Dignity movement. New York is a flagship campaign for us, along with Massachusetts. And so evaluating what happened in the New York legislature was important for me and important for us tonight. For the most part, we are status quo in New York. It's very similar to prior years, with one exception, and that will be the committee chairs in the Assembly. There was a combination of primary losses earlier in the year, retirements, and some general election losses, some surprises. And that means there's going to be a new chair for a lot of committees in the House and in the Assembly, and we're particularly interested in that Health Committee. And who ends up as the chair could impact movement of the bill. Arizona is another state of interest for the Death with Dignity movement. It's a state where we have been working very hard for several years now. What we're looking at now is, unfortunately, Arizona is one of those states that is a toss-up. We don't know the results of many of the races, either federally or at the state level. And so we'll have to wait and see how those chairmanships go, whether or not we have a supportive or not supportive chairmanship. Also, the governor's race is in a similar position. It is a race that is up in the air. We are not sure what's going to happen. It's a very tight race. And we have, what's interesting about that governor's race is we have a very pro-MAID candidate and a very anti-MAID candidate. And so really depending on the outcome of those races depends on how much progress we will see in Arizona next year. So in that vein, what can you do to support Death with Dignity, the Death with Dignity movement, in light of this election outcome? Of course, one of the things that you can do is make a donation to Death with Dignity. Our movement fights against entrenched institutional operatives who have very deep pockets and who sit in the halls of power in our country. Here at Death with Dignity, we operate on slim margins, so we can always use your generous donations to advocate for the rights of people who are terminally ill. Another way to help us is to share your story. We don't talk about death much in the US, and we like to pretend it doesn't happen, but everyone on this call tonight knows that's not true. Our stories change people's minds. They're the most powerful tool in the fight that we have for death with dignity, in the fight for the rights of people who are terminally ill. And like many of you, I have a story of someone I love who died badly and who desperately wanted death with dignity in the state of Iowa, and it was not available there. It was banned. I know it's an act of courage to share his story. It is an act of defiance in the face of power that wants to avoid hard conversations, that power that wants me to be quiet. But I hope that you will join me in telling your family story and my family story so that we can act to smash the death taboo in the United States.